Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you live in Florida, you already know the drill. Water damage is just this stressful, chaotic, and unfortunately super common part of homeownership down here. But what happens when the exact people you hire to save your home actually end up holding it hostage? Today we are going to unpack the really predatory mold contracting practices that are plaguing vulnerable homeowners right now, and more importantly, we're going to learn exactly how the law works so you can fight back. All right, let's dive into this.
So, let's start with a bit of a provocative question to help you figure out if the person you just hired to fix your water damage is secretly scamming you. When a pipe bursts, or worse, a hurricane strikes, we're desperate, right? We just want the problem gone, immediately. But in that exact moment of vulnerability, unscrupulous contractors are literally just seeing dollar signs. It turns out a lot of the standard practices you might assume are totally normal in the restoration industry are actually massive, calculated violations of both state and federal law.
Here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover 1. Assessor versus remediator laws. 2. The free inspection scam. 3. Why killing mold fails. 4. Hurricane scams and illegal biocides. And 5. Exactly how to report fraud and scams.
All right, Section 1. Assessor versus remediator laws.
Let's dive right into what I consider the golden rule of Florida's mold regulations. This is really the absolute bedrock of consumer protection in the state, and you can find it directly in Chapter 468, Part 16 of the Florida Statutes. It all revolves around a single, absolutely crucial number, 10. 10 square feet. That is the exact threshold where the state's strict definitions legally kick in. So if a contractor finds more than 10 square feet of mold, they can't just wing it and do whatever they want. At this specific threshold, really strict legal rules for assessment and remediation have to be followed. Florida law strictly mandates a very clear division of labor here. On the assessment side, you have the Mold-Related Services Assessor, or MRSA. Their job is to inspect the space, collect the samples, and essentially give you a diagnosis. Now on the flip side, we have the Mold-Related Services Remediator, the MRSR. Their job is strictly to physically remove that mold. So the absolute most crucial point you need to remember is this. Florida law explicitly prohibits the company assessing the mold from being the exact same entity that removes it. It's totally illegal to do both on the same project. Why? Well, it prevents a massive, wildly expensive conflict of interest. You definitely do not want the person diagnosing your expensive problem to be the very same person profiting from fixing it.
Moving on to Section 2, the free inspection scam. Scammers basically try to bypass this legal separation we just talked about by dangling a very tempting word right in front of stressed-out homeowners. I mean, we all love a good deal, right? But in the mold industry, free is the ultimate red flag. Unscrupulous contractors use the word free to manufacture fear and this totally false sense of urgency. They'll offer a free inspection, miraculously find a quote-unquote terrifying amount of mold, and then immediately pressure you into signing a contract. Think about it for a second. Nobody runs a business for free. They're just absorbing the cost of that inspection up front to trick you into paying thousands of dollars for bogus, totally exaggerated removal work that, frankly, you might not even need.
And this free tactic? It builds into an even deeper scam at the very end of the job. Industry advocates point this out all the time, and this quote perfectly sums it up. This is no different than a student grading his own final exam. What they're talking about here is the post-remediation verification inspection, basically the clearance test. Letting the remediator offer you free clearance testing is just absurd. With thousands of dollars on the line and literally no way to charge you more money if they fail, they are highly, highly unlikely to ever fail their own work. Always, and I mean always, have an independent licensed assessor grade the final exam.
Okay, Section 3. Why killing mold actually fails. So, out in the wild, there's this really fundamental misunderstanding of how mold actually works. Another massive scam involves contractors telling you they'll just kill the mold using heat or ozone or some chemical fogging, instead of adhering to the strict industry standards that require them to physically remove it. To understand why just killing mold is a terrible, terrible idea, let's look at this absolutely fantastic analogy from industry experts. Imagine you have a totally bizarre problem. A literal cow has wandered right into your living room. You call up a cow removal company to get rid of it. So the removal company shows up, the guy pulls out a chemical gun or a fogger, kills the cow right there on your favorite rug, and then happily hands you the bill, claiming the job was a complete success. But you still have a massive dead cow rotting in your living room, right?
As this brilliant analogy perfectly illustrates, leaving dead, non-viable mold spores behind still leaves a major indoor contaminant. Under the formal industry rule, which is known as the ANSI S520 standard, this is officially known as Condition 2. That's an environment contaminated with settled spores. Because guess what? Even dead mold can still cause adverse health effects and trigger allergic reactions. If a contractor just wants to spray it down and walk away, they are totally violating proper remediation protocols, and they are basically leaving the metaphorical dead cow right there in your house.
Which brings us to Section 4, Hurricane Scams and Illegal Biocides. Now, in the devastating aftermath of a hurricane, these scams evolve into something incredibly dangerous for families. When a storm hits, desperation levels obviously skyrocket, and honestly, so does the fraud. You've got homes totally saturated with wind-driven rain. Experts will tell you that water damage from a hurricane can almost never be fully restored fast enough just by setting up some fans and hoping it dries out. Mold starts growing fast, like in 24 to 48 hours. So because these dry-out contractors know their drying efforts have failed, they try to cover their tracks. And they do this by illegally applying chemical biocides to mask the smell and literally hide the growth. The problem, this leaves toxic residues all over your home, which can cause severe health issues, particularly for young children and infants. To actually pull off this cover-up, contractors rely on chemical masks. Let's look really closely at the fine print on a popular, supposedly plant-based biocide called Botanaclean. Contractors absolutely love to use products like this, claiming, oh, it's natural, it's perfectly safe, and then they just frequently spray it directly onto highly porous drywall to hide the mold problem.
But the real deception is literally right there in the fine print. The label clearly states it is effectively used to clean and disinfect hard, non-porous environmental surfaces, things like floors or countertops. Drywall is incredibly porous, so applying this stuff to drywall is actually a direct violation of federal pesticide laws under the EPA's FIFER regulations. That stands for the Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act. If your contractor uses these biocides improperly and then has the nerve to put it as a line item on their invoice, that is straight up illegal contracting. And here's the kicker, it makes the invoice itself legally unenforceable. Seriously, just because everyone in the industry seems to be doing it does not make it legal.
All right, our final section, Section 5, Reporting Fraud and Scams.
So, what do you actually do if you find yourself caught in this Florida mold trap? Well, if you've been a victim of these deceptive tactics, you need to know you are not powerless. You have serious state and federal resources at your disposal to fight back. Here is your survival toolkit. Take action immediately. Step 1. Contact the Florida Attorney General's Fraud Hotline. Their number is 866-966-7226. Step 2. If you or a loved one happens to be an older adult, definitely reach out to the Seniors vs. Crime Project at 1-800-203-3099. They actually have special sleuths who assist with civil disputes involving contractors. And Step 3, file a formal report with the Department of Financial Services. Make sure you document absolutely everything, take photos of any weird chemicals being used, and stand your ground. Refuse to pay those unenforceable invoices. We've covered a huge amount of ground in this explainer today, haven't we? From the strict 10-square-foot rule to the whole dead cow analogy, all the way to those illegal biocides. Always remember to demand a legally licensed, truly independent mold assessor to diagnose your home and an entirely separate licensed remediator to handle the physical removal. Because when you're dealing with water damage, opting for the ease and convenience of a free all-in-one service could literally end up costing you everything. Stay vigilant out there, stay informed, and protect your home. See you next time.